Hey there, guys, and welcome back to the Syndicate. Mark here, and I have a new Star Wars Unlimited deck for you. Now, with Legend of the Force just around the corner, I wanted to get out at least one more additional deck for Jump to Lightspeed, and we had a request from somebody in one of the comments on my last video asking they really wanted to create, or I guess might not have been the last video, it's a more recent one, they wanted to create a deck that uses the new Darth Vader in Swarm mechanics, or Swarm strategy, but they wanted to do that for Twin Suns. So they asked what leader they should pair it with. I thought I could do one better than answering. I'll do a new video for you. So this is the leader I would pair it with. This is the way that I would build the deck. Now, before we jump in, I will say I've played against a couple of friends' decks that used this strategy. One of them played Vader and set for Boba Fett. One of them played Vader and Count Dooku. Both of those decks were very good, and both of them, I believe, are both using swarming vulture droids. I think I also saw one that was a double green running Vader and the new Admiral Piet. It was running lots of sort of things that would generate tokens, a lot of space lane, and then was running the big capital ships. You'll see in this deck, we're running the big capital ships. But I thought, what better way to swarm with Vader than to swarm on both sides of the board? So we're going to have a little bit of swarm on both sides of the board. I'll go over the strategy with you. Before we jump in, like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you know when I'm putting out new content. With that being said, let's go ahead to the desktop and let's take a look at this deck. So this one has just been called Swarm. Maybe I'll come up with a better name for it while I'm doing the editing. But this is running two leaders here. One is Darth Vader. The new Darth Vader has an action which just reads, exhaust him if you attacked with a non-token vehicle unit this phase, create a TIE Fighter token. So attack with any vehicle, and you can create a TIE Fighter token as long as that vehicle was not a token. And then as an epic action, if you control 6 or more, you can flip him, and he can come out as a 5/6, but he can also come out as a 5/5 attached to a vehicle that also deploys 2 TIE Fighter tokens. And then I'm also running him with Newt Gunray. Newt Gunray is going to be Vigilance, Villainy, blue, black, action. If 2 or more friendly units were defeated this phase, exhaust him and create a battle droid token. He flips on 6 as well, so the same turn as Vader, but he flips as a 2/8 and on attack creates a battle droid token. Now, battle droid tokens, of course, are not, non-token vehicles, but the point is we're going to be creating a ton of tokens both in the space lane and in the ground lane, and because Vader so reliably creates tokens, it'll be far more common for us to be able to use Newt Gunray. Newt Gunray helps trigger himself because your battle droid token is going to be attacking into things and dying. So it allows us to get a lot of activity in both lanes, plinking away at our opponent's health totals and keeping more units on the board than them. We're going to run this with Catacombs. Any red 30 health base will do fine. We want to get access to some of the best red or aggression villainy space units, and those are almost entirely going to be in aggression. So let's take a look here. I'm going to run through our 1 drops, 2 drops, 3 drops the whole way through. We're going to be pretty quick with them. Apology accepted. Defeat a friendly unit. You may give 2 experience tokens to a unit. This is so you can defeat a battle droid token and buff something that you have in the space lane. Daring raid for a little bit of removal. Timely intervention, because one of the things you'll notice is that everything, with the exception of 1 or 2 cards that we run with the express intention of playing it in the ground lane, will either remove something when it hits the board, or it will have Sentinel. We want to just block up and clog up the ground lane. We want to discourage our opponents from attacking us in the ground lane, and very frequently that's what Sentinel does. Sentinel in a normal game of Star Wars Unlimited is fine. In Twin Suns, it's much better. Why? Because your opponents have other options. So if you have a Sentinel unit and your opponent does not have a Sentinel unit, in order to not weaken their own board, instead of attacking through your Sentinel unit, they're far more prone to attack into your opponent's vulnerable units or into their base, making Sentinel units very powerful. So you might see a few strange ones or obscure ones that I'm going to be running here, but I think that they are well worth it. Timely intervention, we can just resource this thing, and it allows us to attack out with something the turn that we play it, enabling some of our Sentinel units to become removal. Now, Admiral Piet is interesting, is a 2 resource, 1/4 in the ground lane. Whenever he's in play, if a non-leader unit that costs 6 or more gets played, it gets ambush. I have this in here because we do have a lot of really big spaceships towards the end of the game. It can be really powerful. You probably want to mulligan this away in the early game. The Confederate Courier is a 2 resource, 2/1. It's in the space lane, and when it's defeated, it creates a battle droid token. It does everything that we want it to do. It's a non-token space unit, and when it perishes, you get a battle droid token. So that's perfect for us. I threw Dr. Pershing in this. I really just like him in Twin Suns. If I'm going to be playing Vigilance Villainy, I'm probably going to be playing him in it. He's not a huge threat. Your opponents don't usually want to take him out. And, you know, he can draw some cards for you in the early game if you get him out. Sometimes 2 cards, really, really valuable in Twin Suns to dig further into your deck. When we get to our 2-drops here, especially with space units, you're going to see we just have most of them in here between Inferno 4, our Patrollers, Kylo's TIE Silencer, our Onyx Squadron Brute, our Outland Vanguard, our Special Forces TIE Fighter. We're pretty much just running any of the 2-drops in space that we can drop. You know, the Confederate Courier is one of those as well. We just grabbed all of them because we want to be able to get one of those out on turn 1, and then turn 2 we can start generating with Vader because we get a chance to attack with one of them. We put in the Partisan Starship Thief because it is a 2-resource 2/2 in ground lane, which we don't really care about, but it does give us a 2-drop. The more important part is you can pay 3, equip him to a vehicle unit and take control of it. This on turn 1, we throw out a space unit. Turn 2, we control one of our opponent's space units, and it just gives us a lot more superiority in the space lane. We like that a lot. Then you'll see here, Poggle the Lesser, just a 1/4 that's going to generate tokens for us. That's why he's in there. He obviously doesn't have removal. There's not a ton of like that early game, turn 1 really, ground sentinels. And so we do have Poggle, Admiral, Pershing, all of those things, just because they add a little bit more options to that ground lane for us. Pike Sentinel is a 2/3 with Sentinel in the ground lane, so that's in. And then Wingman Victor 2. This is a 2-resource 3/2, which isn't bad, but if you do pilot him, you get to create a TIE Fighter token. You can pilot him for 1, get a +1/+1, and then grab a TIE Fighter token. Very strong for us, early or late game, really. Air Superiority, Force Choke, and then Private Manufacturing. So Air Superiority, because we're probably going to have superiority over people, so it's going to give us a chance to target that ground lane. Force Choke, targeting the ground lane. We want anything really that's going to help us remove things from the ground lane that we can't deal with because we're only playing tokens and sentinels. The Private Manufacturing lets us draw 2 cards. If we control no token units, then we have to put 2 cards from your hand at the bottom of your deck, but hopefully we'll always have 2. And so this is just a pay 2, draw 2, which is great. Moving on to our 3-drops in space, we have a whole bunch, and this is a 3 is a, you know, turn 2, 3 resources is a really big turn for us. So we have the Black Sun Starfighter, just a good sentinel to protect our stuff. We have the Disabling Fang Fighter to be able to deal with upgrades on the ground lane that are out already, or later in the game for leaders that deploy on space units. We have Prototype TIE Advance, just a 4/3 for 3, and the Punishing One, which for us is just a 3/4 for 3. So kind of the opposite sides of the coin there. Punishing One obviously has a little bit more of a benefit, but you're very rarely going to be able to use it in this deck. The point is, they're solid stat blocks for 3 in space. And then similar, like Vong's TIE Interceptor, we're very rarely going to be able to use the abilities below it, maybe occasionally if we get him upgraded, but he has a 3/4 for 3 with an upside, so that's good enough for us. The 2/4 for 3 that buffs all of our space units +1/+1 Victory Leader is a absolutely clutch card. We'd love to see this card. Now, as for our ground units, we're running Ramp, Sentinel, Pilots, and that's about it. And so we have 2 of our Sentinels between the Cell Block Guard and the Phase 3 Dark Trooper. In a similar way, the Calculating Magna Guard is another Sentinel for us. We're clogging up the lane. Very likely on turn 2 if we can't push the space lane more. The Droid Commando is often going to be able to get out and get ambush if you've been able to generate a token in the ground lane. Your opponents probably aren't going to be too worried about your battle droids, so that helps our Droid Commando get ambush. And then Super Laser Tech, because if you can run ramp, why wouldn't you run ramp in Twin Suns? Lets us get our leaders out on turn 4 instead of on turn 5, which would be great for us. And we got Tam here. She has a piloting ability that allows her on attack to be able to give units -1/-1, and it's just a buff. We want anything. Really, we're looking just for stuff that are solid buffs for our tokens, TIE Fighter tokens. And then the Wingman Victor 3, when played as an upgrade, you can give an experience token to another unit. So yeah, cheap upgrade, just buff up one of our already established ships, and then also, buff up another one of our TIE Fighters. Now, for 3-drops, we have a bunch of removal, with the exception of resupply when it comes to actions. So make an opening, perilous position, power of the dark side, open fire, and merciless contest are all just solid removal options. No Bargain allows us once again to gain a little bit of hand advantage, which I like that theme kind of happening throughout this deck. We could have played into it more with things like Force Throw or Pillage, but I think the private manufacturing combined with the piercing, combined with the not merciless contest, the No Bargain, gives us some good options. Moving on to 4-drops in space, you'll see our ground units once again, just Sentinels for the most part, or pilots, and our space units are becoming harder to remove. So a 4-resource 3/2 with 2 shield tokens. This is pretty valuable because if you've ramped and you're playing this on like your turn 3, you're going to get this out. 2 shield tokens is really hard to get rid of with other space units. It's going to allow you to almost certainly attack with this, generate more space units, and get your Vader out onto it, or onto one of your little ships, your token ships. IG-2000, a 4-resource 3/4, which isn't amazing, arguably, but it comes with Overwhelm, and then 1 blade deal 1 damage to up to each of 3 different units, so it's a little bit of removal, a little bit of, space superiority. And along with that, we got the TIE Advanced, which are going to have a lot of Imperial units. You'll have targets for this. The TIE Ambush Squadron, a 2/3 that's going to basically on the turn it comes down, probably give you 2 TIE Fighters, increasing your tokens in space. The Imperial Interceptor to be able to target space units and continue to control the space lane. And then the Shuttle ST-149 is a 4-resource 3/4 that comes in with a shield, but then you can actually move that shield whenever you play it to something else if you need to. So if you need to move it to a Sentinel unit in your ground lane, you can. If you need to move it to another space unit that you're trying to protect, you can do that. And then for our other units, the only one that we're running that's not, just another Sentinel is our Iden. But that's because she's a 4-resource 4/3 with a shield. But more importantly, she's like a 3-resource 3/3 upgrade that gives a shield. Very, very, very strong. One of the best pilots in the game. So we have a lot of things to pilot on. We're going to run her. Lieutenant Childson and the Perimeter AT-RT for a couple of Sentinels. Even if Childson comes down as a 4/4, you only reveal 2 Vigilance Guards from your hands. You're fine with that. Honestly, even a 3/3, any Sentinel in the ground lane at this point, we're pretty happy with. And, the Perimeter AT-RT, there is a 2/6 that you could play. I think the 3/5 stat line, honestly. And then once again, we're going to be diving into just some pure removal. Lots and lots of removal. Basically, Search Your Feelings lets you just go get a card, which I think this is probably the only format it's playable in, and I love it for that reason. And then Takedown, Fell the Dragon, Direct Hit. All just point-and-click removal coming to us from Vigilance. As we move into the 5-drop space, we're going to see more removal, more Sentinel, and you guessed it, more space units and pilots. It's just more of the same without an exception, I think, in this case. So, we have the B2 Legionaries, 5/4 with Sentinel. Yep, that's fine with us. We love having a Sentinel. Corvus, another space unit. This one's going to give us Restore 2 and let us grab a pilot from the ground lane if we need to. A 3/5 with Grit that lets us remove something that's going to be in the space lane, which is great for us. More air superiority. We're actually running Bombing Run because we don't really care about the ground lane. So let's bomb the ground lane with Bombing Run, a -5/-5, an Overwhelming Barrage, and a Vanquish. Just lots of straight up solid board wipes and removal for us. As we move on into our 6-drops, once again, more of the same, with the exception of War Juggernaut here. And I guess technically Palpatine's Return as well, but you'll see why that's in the deck, because the top end of command villainy is just so strong that you kind of have to remove run some of the removal. We might be able to fight back for board towards the end of the game. So Vader's a 6-resource 7/7, but more than likely we're going to be playing him as just giving a +3/+3 to a space unit early in the game. And then also, of course, giving him his ability to deal and ping some damage. Droideka Security, we can exploit this out really early for 2 resources, especially if we get a couple of tokens out, which is great. The battle tank, we're actually going to smuggle this and pull it out later because it's a Sentinel for ground lane. It also will trigger our Vader. There's a resupply carrier because it's more ramp. Relentless Raider because it's busted. The War Juggernaut because it's so strong. And we just have it in the deck because it's so strong in Twin Suns. I've not put in a lot of my Twin Suns deck. Any deck that runs red should probably have it in. I apologize for not putting it in previous ones. It's too strong not to run, even if it doesn't really do what we want it to do. There's a chance it could ping something off and remove something for us. Maybe it removes a field of tokens from an opponent, and that would be pretty good. But most commonly, this thing's just going to come down, deal a little bit of damage to stuff, and just be a huge threat your opponent is forced to deal with. And also, War Juggernaut, along with, if you have out Admiral Piet, can allow him to swing into something the turn that he comes down. Palpatine's return is here for our later game Sith, which we have 5 of. And then our end game is just powerhouse. So planetary bombardment gets infinitely better whenever you're playing in Twin Suns. Rivals fall to deal with leaders. Count Dooku, Darth Vader, and Maul, all 3 really strong. Drop them on the ground and remove something. Remember, our ground units, we want them ideally to remove something when they hit the ground or clog up the ground lane with Sentinel. All 3 of these are drop them, they remove something. Turbo Laser Salvo, this card, very powerful in the end game, can wipe out, it says choose an arena, a friendly space unit, deals damage equal to its power to each enemy unit in that arena. Allows you to wipe all of your friends' ground lanes out. Once again, it's like an upgraded version of Overwhelming Barrage meets Bombing Run for you. It's fantastic. The Antiquarians, the Assault Cruiser, we'll just call it that. Once again, we're just here now in 8 drops looking at big boys. So the Assault Cruiser, because it has ambush, it's in space, it ramps you. Devastator, because it is the most busted card in the game when it comes to Twin Suns, and it's a powerful space unit. Emperor Palpatine, it's going to drop and remove something. Supreme Leader Snoke's going to stabilize the board, and you can go get either of these 2 with a Palpatine's return if they get removed. Super Laser Blast, this was one I wasn't 100% sure I was going to be putting in, because it's rare for this deck to want to wipe the board. But if your opponent's gang up on you because you're getting too many tokens and you're winning, this is a good way to reset things. Avenger, Crate Dragon, Relentless, because they are so powerful in the late game. Arguably, Avenger's the weakest of the 3. So if you were going to drop either Avenger, Crate Dragon, or Relentless, I would drop Avenger for something else. So there's the list, guys. I've run you through the entire thing, looked at each and every card, running a ton of space units. Also, just figuring, throughout the game, dropping space units, attacking with them, generating TIE Fighter tokens. Those TIE Fighter tokens are dying. It's generating Battle Droid tokens. Those Battle Droid tokens and your Sentinels are dying, generating you more Battle Droid tokens. Meanwhile, your space lane is ramping up with more and more pilots and more TIE Fighters. So you just have this constant onslaught. One of the things that you're not going to get a lot in this deck is tokens. You're not frequently, if you're in a 4-player game, you're probably going to be the last one taking a token. You're not going to get the plan. You're not going to get the blast. You're not going to get the initiative token. Why? Because you're probably going to have more units to attack with than any of your friends. And in those cases, it's going to be really important that you pick the appropriate time to take a token rather than getting in chip damage. I think most of the time, though, chip damage with your tokens is going to be really important, and you're just going to accept the fact that you're not getting the blast, you're not getting the plan, you're not going to be getting the initiative token, unless your friends get tired of you all gang up on you and take out all of your units. Okay, guys, that's it for this video and this deck. Please let me know what you think about it in the comments below, and if you would pair up Vader from set 4 from Jump to Lightspeed with somebody else. Once again, I think he does great with Piet. I think he does great with Dooku. I think that he does great with set 4 Boba Fett. I think all of those are really good choices. This is just the direction I went for going all in on the Swarm strategy. Once again, finally, let me know what you think. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate you watching this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.